Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Spartan Shadows podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris, and I'm joined with my co-host, Emmett. We're here today for a little quick update. Got some MSU basketball recaps to do, some breaking MSU hockey news. We're going to touch on some volleyball news, women's basketball, all that sort of thing, and then get you some holiday-themed MSU-related questions to get through Christmas break with. That's kind of the schedule for right now. And Emmett, thanks so much for joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Michigan State has landed 3 players in the portal, which we would touch on in another episode, so it's been a hectic day for the Spartans, and it's just exciting holiday season. This is one of the last real days where you'll see a ton of news about Michigan State before the holiday season really begins. What about you, Chris?
Same. Had thrilling holiday-related stuff to do today, plus Lions-related fantasy football playoffs. So it's been a interesting day, I guess. But
Yeah,
getting
just finished
to
decorating over here, so
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thankfully, we're good. Got presents wrapped. We got last-minute gifts bought, so that's good. And then yeah, so far my holiday wish of fantasy football good vibes have worked out so far. I got a little bit of time to go. So
love to
um,
see it.
yeah, so I guess we'll get into it. Zach unfortunately could not make it for this one. He did want us to pass along wishes for a happy holiday season for everybody. This will hopefully air. We're recording it Sunday night, and then I plan to hopefully have it up tomorrow. And then we'll unfortunately be off for a few days with the holiday, well-deserved family time. But once MSU athletics start picking back up towards the end of the week into next week, we'll try to start updating you with stuff. So sorry I had some technical difficulties there, but we'll fast forward. MSU basketball was in action last Tuesday at Little Caesars Arena. Emmett was live from the press box, and they took on the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. Greg Campy, Tom Izzo shirt game, Grinch game, I guess if you want to call it. But their annual holiday matchup. I think I didn't double check the stats, so if I'm wrong on this, I think it's MSU moved to 23-0 all time against Oakland.
So
Final score is 77-50. The Spartans went into the half up one and then pulled away in the second half with some superb play. Leading scorer in the game was Xavier Booker with 18. A little bit of a headline that I think Emmett had mentioned to me that Graham Couch kind of brought up was Simon Zapala's parents actually got to watch him for the first time as a Spartan, so that was kind of nice for them to get in and see. And then kicked off the Christmas season very well. So Emmett, since you were there, what did you see in that game that went so well?
obviously, the high of the game would be Booker having a career high 18 points, shattering his previous mark of 12 or 13 against UNC only 4 games ago. That was part of Booker having 4 games in a row with 10 plus points. Uh, it was a lot of fun seeing Campy and Izzo in the Grinch sweaters. Uh, Tom Izzo gave him a bit of grief, and they had a moment in the press room where it kind of just looked like two guys recording a podcast with a bunch of people filming. That was one of the most fun interactions I've seen in my 1 year working press so far. Just the team really, the score does not reflect that game because the first half, both teams played poorly. It was poor shot decisions, bad turnovers. Both teams had came into that game on 10-day rests before facing each other, and they played like teams that had not touched a basketball in 10 days. Obviously, the teams practiced it and everything, but it was just rusty basketball it's what you see when you only play a scout team. Also, Campy runs a extremely weird zone, as highlighted by Izzo multiple times.
Yes.
He said that at points, the scout team would have 6 players on the court to simulate what Campy's zone is like. Another thing was for Oakland, this is kind of the Super Bowl. They always get to play Michigan State, one of the best every year. They always want to be that team to finally get that first win and take the 0 off the scoreboard for Oakland. Oakland came in fired up. DQ Cole, I believe, had 5 3-pointers in the first half, if I'm not mistaken.
Something like that, yeah.
And one of the main highlights in the press conference, outside of, out of two guys being dudes, would be Tom Izzo mentioning that at halftime, Tom called it, it was not a very pretty halftime, but one of the main points was Jeremy Fears Jr. in the locker room said, I want DQ. Give me DQ Cole. And I believe Cole had 4 points the rest of the game.
No 3-pointers either.
Yeah, I was about to say, he had I think 2 layups or 2 free throws or something.
Yeah, he played really well on them.
Yeah, and Fears only ended up with 4 points total in the game.
Yes.
But his decision to play guard on DQ Cole was what Tom Izzo credited as winning the game.
Yeah, Izzo had rave reviews for Jeremy Fears after the game, and it was good to see him step up and have kind of that. I don't want to say that kind of cauterizing moment that you see him where he noticeably takes a step and becomes more of the leader presence that at least still technically a freshman, even though it's his second year with the program, but he looked really good as a point guard, not as a scorer, but as a point guard and a leader. So that's big for this team. It really is. If we can get, Tom Izzo teams with good guards and good point guards are what drives the offense in the team. So it's good to see Fears really stepping up. Shout out to Jackson Kohler. I believe I had a double. Yeah, 14 points and 10 boards. Was real active against Oakland. So shout out to him. And yeah, it was another good win for the Spartans against Oakland. Always a tough team. I know they're not the team of last year that took Kentucky out and had a little bit of a run there, but it was still. I mean, like Emmett said, they run a tough zone. Greg Hampi's a great coach, and it's always a tough ask no matter what their record is. So shout out to the
They were
Spartans.
out a starter, too.
Yeah, they were out of
Oakland
starter.
was out a starter for that game. So thankfully, Izzo was able to talk to the refs and be like, hey, I do not want you guys to charge him a timeout for a starter getting injured in warm-ups. Just he started his warm-up, said I'm not good to go after the lineups had already been released, which in normal basketball is whistled as a foul. A timeout is charged to substitute a player, or else they'll have to play with four on. Not a foul, but they'll have to play with four on court until the first break in action.
Yeah.
Unless they take a timeout, obviously. So Izzo did not want that. So yeah, that was a cool moment to see of Izzo being the respectable coach, and obviously with one of his closer personal friends was a cool moment to see.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's good. It's a classic Tom Izzo move there. So happy the game went off, and it's fun to watch those teams play every year. So good win. That brought the Spartans, I believe, to 9-2 at the time because they had a game against Florida Atlantic, which would have been yesterday.
Yes.
Like I
Saturday.
said, days are running together all the time. So they played
Happy
Florida
holiday
Atlantic.
season.
Yeah, Florida Atlantic at the Breslin yesterday, and MSU got another victory to move to 10-2. Final score 86-69. Cohen Carr led the way in this one, had his best game as a Spartan, 17 points, hit a three-pointer, had two ridiculous dunks that were insane per usual. Was the straw that stirred the pot, I guess. And Jeremy Fears added 13. Jaden Akins had another 13. Frankie Fiddler had 10 off the bench to go with Cohen. So Jace Richardson had 9 too. So a lot of contributions. A lot of guys played some minutes. MSU was shooting a lot of free throws. I mean, they had 20 at the end of the day, but FAU got into foul trouble pretty quickly. So there was a lot of shots going to the line. Also, shout out Frankie Fiddler, 6 of 6 from the free throw line, so that's always good. But yeah, another big, strong team win. Emmett was also live from the Breslin for that, so he had some traveling ahead of him this past week. So thanks again for Emmett for covering that. What'd you see there?
Outside of Cohen Carr, this was very much a game where there was no dominant player. Everyone was scoring, except for ironically Xavier Booker. Fresh off of a career best game and 4 consecutive games in double digits, Xavier Booker just could not get a shot to fall. I believe he finished 1 for 7, 1 for 6 from the field, and missed all of his 3-pointers. His only points came on a dunk in the final 2 minutes of the game. But the Spartans, just outside of Cohen Carr leaping and almost hitting his head on the scoreboard a couple times.
Yeah.
There was just a bunch of Spartans who were able to score, able to get to the line. The Owls were very aggressive, reached in a lot, and got called on it a lot. The Florida Atlantic radio announcer next to me said that, it was the Tom Izzo whistle, was complaining about it repeatedly. Second half, he changed his tune, and then proceeded to lose his mind when Florida guard Leland Walker, first time a guard named Walker wearing the number 2 was in the Breslin since Tyson, by the way. Followed out after, I believe, 6 or 8 points.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was just the Owls were very content to let the Spartans drive in and then get a foul and send them to the line for an and 1 or 2 shots. And against Tom Izzo, especially this year's free throw shooting team, which is one of the most prolific it's ever been, if not the most statistically.
Yeah.
That's not a recipe for success. The Spartans, they were up by 20 at one point. Jeremy Fears tied his career high for points. Cohen Carr set his career high for points. Carr also set his high for rebounds. Those two took off. Garrick Normand came in for the last minute, hit three, which not quite the most energized the crowd got for a three. That would go to Cohen, but it was just a taking care of business game, which we saw last year against multiple teams. Taking care of business was not a thing the 2023-2024 Spartans did, but the 2024-2025 Spartans certainly appear to be doing so right now. Florida Atlantic, after it was like a 20-20 game, the Owls never got within I want to say 6 or 8 points after the Spartans started stretching it out, going to the line. They shot sub 30% from 3 in the first half, and then shot 50% from 3 after that, which is weird because you would think the team would continue to push inside after all the Owl foul troubles, but the conservative calls ended up working with Spartans shooting 50% from 3 again. Believe that was a lot like, I want to say Niagara or Samford, where the Spartans shot sub 30% first half and then 50% even second half.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, and in watching the game, I wouldn't say that the whistles were inherently a homer whistle or anything like that. The refs established early that they were going to call those type of fouls on both sides, and Florida Atlantic kept doing it, so they kept getting called for it. So, I mean, it is what it is. We'll take it, especially this year when we seem to be able to hit free throws. I know a couple of the past seasons we might have been more upset with having to go to the line so much because we weren't able to hit free throws for whatever reasons. Good to see this team start to do it. Overall, Tom Izzo's kind of alluded to it this week, and some of the other media outlets have talked about it too. This team just seems to get it in all aspects. They're playing well as a team. They're playing well in a lot of aspects on the court. They're doing well off the court. Their togetherness is at an all-time high. Academically, I think it was the highest cumulative GPA for a semester that a Tom Izzo team's had at the mid threes, like 3.45 or something like that. So they're getting it at all levels, on and off the court. And Steven Izzo was on a podcast, and I forgot the name of the podcast off the top of my head, so I apologize. But I saw Steven Izzo on a podcast this week mention that this is one of the most dangerous rosters or teams that Tom Izzo's had in his entire tenure at MSU. And that's saying something because, some of the teams we've had at MSU and some of the runs we've been able to make. That's not just coming from a talking head. That's coming from Steven Izzo, who's watched every team that Tom Izzo's coached at MSU. So interesting to see where it translates. This is the non-conference schedule that's easier than, this is the part of the schedule each year where MSU has, I guess, lesser competition than it does at maybe the beginning of the year when you get into Big Ten play. But hopefully it continues. I mean, a little bit of a holiday break. You're going to start Big Ten play back up here soon.
So they play Ohio State, who took down Kentucky by 20 points. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
The Big Ten is going to be interesting this year.
Yeah.
Purdue doesn't look to be the dominant juggernaut they were last year, but then you see a team like Ohio State dismantled by 20. Rutgers has multiple top 5 freshmen. I know they just lost to Princeton, but it's not an any given night situation.
Yep. UCLA and Oregon are both currently ranked higher than MSU. Michigan's ranked currently higher than MSU. Illinois is still a decent team. Indiana's got moments. It's
Purdue still threatens.
Purdue's not bad by any means. They just don't have Zach Edey. So
they don't have the Edey whistle. That was a unfair whistle.
Yeah.
On the topic of whistles, the Tom Izzo whistle was really proven dead in the second half. At one point, the foul deficit was 7-1. Florida Atlantic having 1 foul, Michigan State having 7 in the second half. And the radio announcer seemed all of a sudden very cool with these refs and said there was no issues whatsoever.
Yeah. It's amazing how quickly those tunes can change.
Yep.
Yeah. So, by and large, I think the basketball team's in a good spot. There's still obviously work to do and improvement that needs to be made. But overall, I think they're in a good spot and can really maybe potentially make some noise. They're off, like I said, for the holiday break. Next game is December 30th at home against Western Michigan. That's a 3 p.m. tip on Big Ten Network. And then after that, that'll close the non-conference schedule and we get into Big Ten play. Like Emmett said, we go to Ohio State, which is January 3rd on Fox at 8 p.m. tip. And then we've got UW Northwestern and Penn State after that. So that's kind of your next 5. I know we have a West Coast swing at some point, and then we're going to have 2 games against Michigan this year. We go to Iowa, so there's going to be some tough games before the end of the season's over. So we'll see where we're at and see what transpires of it. But that's all we had on MSU basketball. Emmett, did you have anything you wanted to add to the basketball team?
Not really, no.
Okay.
It was great to see them take care of business,
Yes.
because we've saw them not take care of business. James Madison still looms large in all of our hearts. So.
Yep. Yeah, I think we're all a little scarred after the last few years of MSU basketball, so it's nice to have a couple of coasting wins. So we'll leave it at that. And speaking of coasting wins and dominant wins, we'll move over to MSU hockey. There really haven't been any games since we last talked about MSU hockey. We last saw them on ice at Minnesota, who was ranked number 1 at the time. We beat them, well, technically tied them, and then won in a shootout for the extra Big Ten play, and then the next game won 5-3 in regulation, completing a road sweep at the number 1 team in the country. That was good enough to boost us back to number 1. We're ranked number 1 in the country going into this, what do you want to call it, holiday break bye.
But who do we lose?
Yeah. So MSU hockey schedule-wise is off till December 29th and 30th when they play at the Great Lakes Invitational. They will be without Trey Augustine and Maxim Strabek. I always mispronounce that name, so sorry, Maxim, if I butcher that again. But Trey and Max were officially chosen to represent their country at the World Juniors this year. Kind of as expected, those 2 have been penciled in on their country's World Junior rosters the last 3-4 years, so not really breaking news there. I was kind of surprised at some of the other MSU players that were left off the lists, but especially some of the American kids, I can't fault it because Team USA is absolutely loaded this year, so it'll be interesting to watch that tournament. That gets underway December 20th, so the day after Christmas, Thursday. That's taking place in Ottawa. All the information you need about the World Juniors, I actually had an article come out yesterday or today for Shadows talking about all that. And check that out if you get time. Trey and Maxim will be away from Spartan hockey for the next couple weeks while they're representing their country. So congratulations to Trey. Congratulations to Maxim. This is Trey's, I believe, 3rd World Juniors and Maxim's 4th. So obviously Trey won the gold medal with Team USA last year and was a big part of that. And they will look to defend that this year. Yeah, and I believe the World Juniors go from the 26th of December to January 5th. So if they do reach the gold medal game, Team USA that would put Trey out of the Wisconsin series, the game at Munn, and then the game at Wrigley, which is January 2nd and 4th. So it'd be kind of a bummer to have Trey or Maxim gone for either of those. But I mean, for me personally, I'm rooting for Team USA to win the gold, and the World Juniors is a big deal. So I guess that's a news softening. But did you have anything you wanted to touch on? I know you will be covering, or hoping to cover at least, at the Great Lakes Invitational, right?
I'm hoping to cover at the Great Lakes Invitational. I do not believe I'll be able to cover basketball on the 30th. That is the same day I leave up for a trip with family. Unfortunately won't be covering Dwayne Stevens, a longtime Izzo assistant, one of his returns to the Breslin. I believe this is almost a annual or semi-annual game for the Spartans.
Yeah, they rotate.
So hopefully you get to cover that in the future. But this does affect the hockey news for World Juniors. The players will be missing until, I believe, the game after the Frozen Confines, correct?
If they make the gold medal game.
Yep. Pending they make the gold medal game. However, the Spartans are not the only ones shorthanded. Wisconsin's goaltender is also on the Team USA roster, so they will be playing backup goaltenders in the Frozen Confines game, which as a fan, it's a little disappointing, but it's for a good reason. It's not like they're out just goofing off or anything, but both of these guys get to go represent Team USA and try to win a medal that's bigger than a single Big Ten game. So really cool for them. Congratulations to them. Stinks that you're not going to get to see that outside game with 2 of the best goaltenders in hockey playing each other. But yeah, the World Juniors roster does feature a couple names we saw this year already as well. I believe with their announced rosters and the announced lineup for their first exhibition, James Hagan, the center for Boston College, was the first-line center for their team. A prospective number 1 pick of the draft, potentially. So that's a guy to watch.
Yep. Yeah, the Team USA is loaded with a bunch of talent, and a lot of talent we have already seen or will see this year. So that's, I mean, if you like hockey, that's going to be where you want to check out. So how it works is Trey and Maxim will be for sure gone through the round robin play or regular play, whatever you want to call it. I believe the medal round starts on January 2nd, I believe. So if they do not hit the medal round, whatever team they're playing for, Maxim plays for Slovakia, and then obviously Trey for the U.S. If they are able to hit the medal round, then they would continue to play until they lose, obviously. If they do not hit the medal round, then they're free to come home. It just kind of depends on how the field shakes out. I would think the U.S. is probably a shoo-in for a medal. I think we are in the same group as Canada, though, so I guess it's kind of a tough draw. Maybe you lose a game here and then end up losing to Canada. That might kick you out of the medal round. So interesting to see how it shakes out. Yeah, I mean, you got to play the games, but I would think they're probably going to be gone for at least a little bit. Slovakia is a good team too, so I would think they'd make them at least the start of the medal round. So we'll see, but good for them. Like I said, it's exciting. If I was playing as an MSU hockey player, I would love the chance to go play at the World Juniors, and especially for Trey too. I mean, we're looking at an NHL career and hopefully a long one for Trey. So if who knows, the Blackhawks seem to get a Winter Classic game every other year. So if that happens, Trey might get a Wrigley game in his lifetime. It's possible. So we'll see. Maybe we can get him one of those if the Wings and Blackhawks get a Winter Classic game back in Chicago. So congratulations to both of them. That's big news and exciting news. And so that's all we got on hockey. It's kind of a lull point in time, but I did want to update everybody on the World Juniors news, and then we'll probably keep you guys updated as we do podcast episodes just to let you know how the tournament's shaking out. All tournament games are on NHL Network for those who get that and want to watch it. Like I said, the tournament starts Thursday after Christmas and goes till the 5th. So moving forward, MSU women's basketball unfortunately just lost their first game of the year to Alabama. They had started 10-0, I believe.
Yes, I believe.
Yeah, 10-0 or 9-0. They lost to Alabama for their first loss of the season, but they're on fire to start the year. So congrats to them. They're looking good. I believe I think they're on break now too. I think their next game, I had it pulled up. Sorry, I'm unprepared, but let me just check. Their next game is the 29th against 8th ranked Maryland.
Yep.
So yeah, but they're going to get into Big Ten play. The Big Ten does have some loaded women's teams too. So tough stretch of schedule coming up. They play at number 8 Maryland. They go at number 23 Nebraska at some point soon. They get Purdue. They get Washington. So could be interesting to see. But they're off to a great start and looking to build on yet again from a good last year. Anything on women's basketball, Emmett?
I'm just excited to see how this plays out. I'm hoping that we can see for the first time since 2005 the Lady Spartans and the men's basketball team both competing for a Final Four. Spartans were able to accomplish that in 05, I believe. And it would be great to be able to see the dual banner celebration at some point for a home opener next year.
That'd be great. I would like that. And then the last.
I know it's way too early to say that with all Big Ten play starting, but
yeah, for men's and women's. But women's basketball a little different this year too. There's a lot of really deep teams and a lot of really good teams, but there's not a juggernaut of like the 30-0 UConn teams or Stanford teams, or NC State had a run there for a little bit, and Caitlin Clark being gone from Iowa helps, and LSU not having Angel Reese helps. So who knows? Get them in the tournament. Maybe we can string some wins together. But congrats to MSU women's basketball on the great start. Hopefully they'll look to rebound against Maryland. A big game coming up, so good luck there. Last piece of athletics news we have: MSU women's volleyball fired Coach Leah Johnson, and have already actually named a new coach. They hired Kristen Kelsey, was an assistant coach at Minnesota, I believe.
Head coach at Minnesota, assistant Northwestern, and also an assistant under not Leah Johnson, but previous coach Cassie George for MSU. She was a former MSU women's volleyball player as well, so she's coming back to the program right as they're now playing in the Breslin. So slightly different confines for her, but a very cool moment to see a I believe she played in 2013-ish, that era.
I think that's what you said,
So
yeah.
great to see. Yeah, great to see her back heading the program. The Leah Johnson news was a bit of a shock, moving on from a coach after 3 years. She provided a spark her first year, and then the frustration seemed to mount over a lack of progress and almost stagnation, which was a little bit weird to me just because the Big Ten expanded. You don't know the effect that it's going to have on these volleyball players traveling back and forth constantly for games out on the West Coast. But the move was made to move on from her, and they brought in Kelsey, and I'm excited for her.
Yeah, same. It's good to always get former Spartan dogs back into the program too, and we thank Coach Johnson for her hard work and getting the program back and building a step. And I know she was also a big part of getting, volleyball back to the Breslin Center and, getting kind of a more campus-wide importance on volleyball. So we thank Coach Johnson for her contributions and welcome Coach Kelsey. And yeah, hopefully MSU volleyball can be on the come up again. I know it seems like we say it about every sport, but the Big Ten's got some women's volleyball juggernauts to have to contend to. So
They just won the Natty.
yep. So hopefully that is something that we can look and combat and maybe get some help with. So yeah, that's kind of all the athletics news we've had. I think we're just going to flip it over real quick to some holiday themed just questions we've kind of asked around between ourselves and some of the writers. It being the holiday season, we wanted to give a couple of more fun themed things. We were hoping to get a guest on, but just holiday schedules and everything, it's been kind of crazy. We apologize. We do look to have some more cool guests in the future for you all, and maybe tie up some recruiting, talk some more football in the off season, stuff like that. So be sure to follow us in. We're really looking forward to 2025 and building this up a little bit more and all that. So we thank everybody. But some of the questions we posed to people, Emmett, if you had to have one item on your wish list for Christmas for MSU Athletics, what would it be?
Well, that's a tough one. So, one item on my wish list for MSU Athletics, I feel like I need to have, that big Santa list when it looks like one item and you just expand the scroll.
Yeah,
But I think giving Izzo one last natty, depending on, if Izzo gets that second natty and says, I'm done, I could not blame him. I would not be upset. I would thank him and happily laugh my way to the bank. But I think getting Izzo a natty would definitely be at the high list of my priorities.
Mm-hmm.
Hockey, MSU hockey winning one, or the Spartans making. I guess for football, it's kind of hard because it's off season at this point. But landing a top player in the portal, obviously they just did recently. So yeah, I would say probably the top item on my list would be getting that national championship, getting Coach Izzo his much deserved second championship, and bonus one for the MSU athletics department. They get to build Tom Izzo a statue.
Yeah.
I want a Tom Izzo statue outside the Breslin Center.
There you
that
go.
would be so I'll go outside the box. That will be my one wish. Tom Izzo statue outside the Breslin.
That's good because Zach did give us his answers to these, and Zach's answer was a number 2 national championship for Izzo. He did say if he had to limit it to this season, he doesn't know for sure if a national championship's in the cards this year, but he said if he could guarantee a Final Four for this year, that would probably be on his list. But overall, his goal is Izzo getting his second national, so that would be his top wish list item. For me, I'm going to go Tom Izzo getting
I
the
thought you were
second.
going hockey.
Well, I am going to go hockey. Tom Izzo getting number 2 is absolutely up there. I'll be different just because everybody's going to say Tom Izzo second. I want a national championship in hockey this year. It's time. We need to party like it's 2007, and Justin Applicator is the star of the team. So I'll take MSU national championship, send Trey off as one of the most winning goalies in this program's history, and send him to the Red Wings not Red Wings directly, but send him to the Red Wings organization and turn pro, coming off another another championship. He's won at every other level he's been at. Let's get him a collegiate national championship.
So your wish list wouldn't be one more year of Augustine, correct?
I just don't think it's going to happen.
If that's on the table for Christmas, an assured one more year for Augustine, what are you taking?
I don't think it's going to happen. No, I'd take the national championship.
Okay.
I'd take the national championship. I think even if he, that'll get into the Red Wings, and I have a whole laundry list of needs for the Red Wings because they're just ever disappointing this year. So we'll save that for another time. But yeah, I'll take
Your wingsman is Cyril Lalonde. Never mind.
I'll take a Trey Augustine, MSU hockey national championship. And if we can parlay that into Emmett and I also getting to go hang out in Coach Nightingale's office and get one of those famous pizzas he makes, I'll add that in there too. So.
I saw that pizza maker every time I walk in for media for football, and the one time I got to do media for hockey. Definitely want one of those.
Yeah, I've heard great reviews from that, so I would take a Adam Nightingale pizza special from his office. That'd be great. Okay, which MSU athlete would be the most fun at your Christmas party?
Geez, I've interviewed two of them, and I've interacted with multiple of them for media. So okay, first choice, Jake Merritt for sure, because Jake and I still text. Close as a family. It's awesome getting to know Jake as a person and a player. Great to see him play this year. So Jake would be first one. And then I guess to relate more to the common fan for what people see, I would say Aiden Childs would be my other choice because Aiden, when he doesn't have to be the leader for the football team, so like in a party setting, would love to party with Aiden. He just has seemed like a goofy guy. We saw him in the Buc-ee's pants for media one time. He wasn't on the podium that day, so he walked in and started asking questions as a member of media to Jordan Turner. Turner also gets an honorable mention. He's just provided so many funny media clips and gaffes in his 1 year as a Spartan, because I believe with media we've had, in my time for it, so obviously very limited, we've had 3 times where I play with Florida media. The 3 times were Jordan Turner, and Jordan Turner. So a lot of fun for that. But yeah, I would say those would be probably my top 3. If I had to pick basketball, shout out to Malik Hall. He was one of my favorite players to cover for last year's team. This year's team, Jace Richardson.
Fair enough. Zach's answers, for those wondering, basketball would be Jared Normand, and football would be Aiden Childs as well. He was on the same wavelength there. He didn't really give any reasoning as to why he picked those, but he said Jared and Aiden would be fun. Jared, yeah. And so that's his wish list. For me, I'm going to give you 2, but I'm going to give it a little caveat. For current MSU athlete, because I didn't specify in the question. So current, I would say give me Nick Marsh, just because Nick seems like a really cool guy. I've gotten the chance to interact with him a little bit. He was super nice, and I'll host his whole family. Mama Tron can come too. That'd be great. And then, but if I had to pick one time, I don't know why. I just think this person and I would get along so well. A little bit of a throwback MSU athlete, former MSU running back J.U. Kalkrick. Chew and I feel like are on the same wavelength. I feel like him and I would get along very well, drink some whiskey, and just have a little bit of a good time at the holiday party. Chew kind of seems like my type of guy, so I'll say Chew is a little bit of a throwback. Of course, being a friend of the podcast, we would, I think, both also like Mr. Matt Seibert to come hang out with us.
Seibert was already at the party. What do you mean?
But, yeah, he would have already been there. So for those asking why we didn't include him, he would have been already there. So yeah, I think that's where I'll go there. Yeah, what is your most treasured or favorite MSU themed gift you've ever received, if you've received one?
So for me, my freshman year of college up at Michigan State, my parents helped pay to send me to the bowl game for Michigan State that year. We're not going to mention which bowl game it was. I would just say the final score was 7-6.
Yeah.
So, but it was a great time getting to make memories out in San Francisco. So I would definitely say that would probably be one of my more treasured ones. I've also have a signed photo of Kyla Ellsworth making that Rose Bowl tackle. Mm-hmm. That's another one I got for Christmas. Also got a Connor Cook NFL debut jersey patch signed card. So those are the 3 headliners, though, big combos right there. What about you?
I know, so it's hard to decide because a lot of my biggest, I guess, best MSU themed presents came when I was more of a kid, but I did get tickets one year to see my first ever game at the Breslin Center against Wisconsin. I want to say it was in, throwback. I was probably 8 or 9, so that would put it 1997, 1998. Right around
I was going to guess 1980.
Thanks. So that was cool. Just my first experience at the Breslin was nice. Also, a couple of years after that, I got an MSU hockey jersey for Christmas that would have been it didn't have the name on the back, but it would have been a Ryan Miller jersey.
Okay.
So I would say probably one of those. Yeah, that's probably about it. I haven't had a ton of cool Christmas related MSU gifts. Like all the games and stuff I've went to were not Christmas related. It was always just, oh, you want to go to the game? Let's go to the game. So, and then all the like former players and autographs and stuff I've had were just kind of more spur of the moment things that weren't necessarily Christmas related. So, but those
Hey,
are
you have a Christmas related MSU gift coming your way from me this year. That's
Mm,
all I'm saying.
yes, that's true. So once I get that, maybe that a red bandana would be good too.
Oh, that too. But also
So,
LJ Scott, man.
but no, I know but yeah, that could probably take the cake for this year. But yeah, I think that'll be it. I think if I had to pick a themed one like for future like an experience, I would kill the meat Thomas or something like that. So maybe that'll be on the future guest gift list if my wife that's listening in the background could hear that somehow. So but yeah, that's probably my favorite MSU themed gift, I would think, that comes to the top of my head. And then I didn't give you this one beforehand, I just kind of thought of it. If you could sorry, I'm getting yelled at from the chat from the background. If you could make one MSU themed holiday party, either food or drink, what are you coming up with?
Jeez.
I mean,
MSU themed.
you are the cook, so you gotta.
Oh boy. When I think of MSU, I think Fireball is obviously on the menu.
Yep.
Obviously, we encourage of-age drinking here, but yeah, the first thing I think of during my time at MSU, obviously when I turned of age, of course, would be Fireball. For me, the go-to bar would always be Tin Can.
Okay.
So shout out Tin Can.
That's funny. You're gonna make yours bar themed because I'm gonna make mine bar themed too.
Yeah, I say if you're doing that, if we're gonna commit to the bar theme, then we're gonna go stuffed burgers because that's what Tin Can was known for. Love those burgers when I would be up there. Love the fries. Indulged in those many a time. I think that was, I'm gonna call it the freshman 15, even though it was my senior year, but we're gonna say freshman 15 because it comes off the tongue better. What about you?
So I would make a holiday punch themed after a punch bowl or fish bowl from the Land Shark. The
Oh,
Plinko,
okay, that's a good choice.
the Plinko board that they had, I don't know if they still have it because it's been a while since I've been to Land Shark, but the Plinko board that they had at the time, I became great friends with it. We'll say that. So I would make some sort of fishbowl themed or Plinko board, Land Shark themed cocktail. I would put a bunch of green food coloring and maybe some eggnog in to make it festive, but
Okay.
put in some basic jungle juice and call it Land Shark theme MSU jungle juice, and that'll be my holiday contribution for the party. So
Yeah, mine would probably be jungle juice, ton of green food coloring. You'd have to find a way to slip that fireball in there, but I'm
yeah,
sure you can find a way with
that
enough spices.
won't be hard. So but all right, well, I think that's all of the holiday themed questions we had. I didn't really come up with too many more. Do you got anything else you want to add in there?
I've kind of have a fun one. Who would be your three ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future in terms of former Spartans or former Spartan coaches?
Oh boy.
This one's on the spot too, so you're gonna get some fun answers here. I think I have a couple. So for Spartans past, I would say kind of the more jolly, funny ones. Okay, for future, Mark D'Antonio. Just the grim, no smiling, just pointing at things. I could see D'Antonio nailing that one.
Yep.
Where do I slot Tom Izzo in though? Okay, I did my contribution. I claimed the Ghost of Christmas Future.
Well, that's fine because I was going to say D'Antonio would work. So you're making yours a little more themed. I would go just an advisory on all three of my favorite sports.
Oh, okay.
So assign one coach. I would have Ron Mason come back for hockey just because he's a legend and he could help out a lot. And then basketball, I want the ghost of Draymond Green coming back to re-physicalize the Spartans and make them even more physical.
Okay.
Not saying they're not physical now, but I can picture Draymond coming back as a ghost, just screaming at somebody and being like, "Yo, this is some soft."
I think that's called Grind Week.
Yeah, exactly. But Grind Week for the rest of the season, where Ghost Draymond is just yelling at you the whole time. So.
You just want the Spartans traumatized.
Yep, exactly. So, but yeah, that'll probably be my two. I was trying to think of something football non-D'Antonio related, but it's got to be D'Antonio related. So
you could always go with Saban.
yeah, I thought about that, but I don't know. It's just D'Antonio.
Ghost of Kenneth Walker advising all the running backs. I like it.
Yeah, that would be great. So, all right. Well, that'll wrap it up. This significantly went longer than we anticipated, but it was fun nevertheless.
Oh,
So, thank you everybody for tuning in for our holiday special / multi-sport recap. We appreciate all the viewers and everything, all the support you guys have had this year. So we greatly appreciate it. We look forward to doing more in the future and building, and hope everybody has a safe and fun holiday. And we will be back maybe later next week with a new episode. So in the meantime, have a great Christmas, Happy New Year, and go green.
Go White.